Hello? I don't know if this is working. All right, I think we're live now. That was weird. YouTube is giving me some issues here. I am still partially working on getting everything set up. I apologize. I messed up and I went to start and I forgot that I hadn't done something. Give me a moment while I try to finish some things. I messed up all sorts of stuff, man. Shame on me. How's everyone doing? That is in here. It's waiting patiently for me to stop being stupid. I'm gonna make a post in Discord real quick too before we get going on anything. All right, yeah, this gonna be somewhat of a short stream. I'm going to only be live for maybe a couple of hours. We'll give everyone just a minute to get in here. Let me make sure that I got everything set up the way that I want now as well. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't know. I'm assuming that we're live at this moment. YouTube is being a little funky, so hopefully we are good. All right. Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Patiently waiting Houdini 22. Hopefully it'll be next week. If it comes out before Wednesday. If it comes out before or on Wednesday of next week, which I'm really hoping that it does. I took the 22nd off from work so that I could play around with it. So if it comes out before or on that date, I will probably stream some on that day as well. Very much looking forward to the new stuff in 22. Got some things planned that I've been waiting for some default stuff to be added to Houdini. All right, we'll go ahead and start, I guess. So the tool that I've been working on, there's a lot of these out there. Put up a little quick overview video on YouTube tomorrow, but we'll go over it now as well. And there's a lot of these out there. It's just a simple little Vex snippet manager. There's, like I said, a bunch of these out there, but I always end up not using them, or I feel like I would never use them, I guess, just because the way that they work, they're usually either like Python panels or there's like a shelf tool that you have to click on to open up the interface, and it's just kind of out of your way, I feel like, in order to like mess with it. So I packaged up a attribute wrangle that I built all of the UI on, just so that everything's kind of, I guess, somewhat in your face, but also not in your face to have as you're working so that you don't have to have anything, you know, kind of out of the way. So everything's kind of on the wrangle itself. And then you can convert it to a normal wrangle so that you don't have any sort of dependencies in your scene as well. Once you're done kind of setting everything up. So we'll just take a quick look at this and then we'll look at a project here that I haven't shown on YouTube. But so what we got here, we need is a Vex or sorry, a JSON file that has just kind of things set up a little bit. So I've kind of set those up here. There's just this. This is the bare minimum that's required is a JSON file with these two little braces in it so that you can start to save stuff into this. So I've already got one set up with some stuff in it. So we'll go ahead and use that. So I've got some buttons here. This open snippets is going to bring up the UI here. And on this side, we have all of our snippets. These are just some of the ones that I've saved out. All this, by the way, is on Gumroad. You can grab it there if you're interested in it. And then it'll have this snippet file as well that has some of these already set up for you. So I've just started to like save some stuff to this. I haven't saved a whole bunch of things yet, but this is the start of all of it, I guess. But this file with these in here will be on Gumroad as well as part of like the download. That was what I forgot to add. So that's what I was doing. That's why I was late, I guess. But I'll update that page with some more information. I just wanted to jump in here while I had some time. But anyways, this is the UI here. So we've got all of our snippets on here. If we click on one, we can see that this little snippet preview kind of pops up, and then we can insert, replace, or copy the code. So if I go ahead and click insert, it's going to go ahead and just add that into our little Vex box there, as well as down here. Everything syncs between the two. So if I type in here, I can start to type, whatever this is a word. And then it doesn't sync immediately over to this, but as soon as you click into this box, it's going to pop over. As soon as you do anything in here, though, that will pop over to this. There's a one-way sync. I think it's a limitation of Houdini. I haven't been able to figure out how to get this to sync immediately from this box into this one. So for now, you just have to click into it. It's not a huge deal, but we've got all of our different snippets in here. We can save stuff out. So let's just do like f at test is equal to 1. If I click save snippet, it's going to ask us for a name and a category. So we'll call this just like test and then test category. And then it's going to save it into our UI, which also saves it to our file. So this is the file that has all of our stuff in it. You can see that's added there to the bottom. You can edit stuff in here as well as through the UI, and they will sync up. You just have to reload this UI if you change anything in that file. So just close out, reload it, and it should be all good. Can a snippet in the JSON contain quotes? Should be able to. Yeah, you can't. Well, like this, like word. Let's update it. Yeah. Yes, it can contain quotes. So you can save comments or whatever you want in there. And then you can update those. So like you just saw me update that. So let's update that again. And then you can delete stuff out if you want. So I'll just delete that one out. Everything's deleted out of your file and updated as soon as you do stuff as well. So I can clear that out. There are some additional functionalities of this as well. So if I click on like this random P scale, you can see that we have these dollar signs. So if I go ahead and click insert or replace to one of these, it's going to pop up with a fields box here. So anything that is contained within these dollar signs is going to give us a field here when we insert or replace it so that we can add values in there. So if I do like 0.2 or 1 for this min and max, you can see that that's going to replace that in our code so that we can make these a little bit more user-friendly just so that we don't have like hard-coded values and then it just automatically replaces them once you type in whatever you want. And we can do the same thing with like parameters I've got set up here as well. So if I go ahead in here and click on like this float one and click insert, it's going to ask for our parameter name. So we'll call this like max underscore scale. And we can create that. You can see that adds that in there. And then we've got our stuff added in there. So that's for these, it's important to note that everything between and including the dollar signs is going to be replaced with whatever you type in that box. So we want to make sure that those are inside of those little apostrophes so that they're added properly. So if we want to replace stuff, we can, let's say, replace our code with this. It's just going to automatically replace that. And we can also rearrange our code in here, or our order of our snippets in our file. So if I change this one, so this volume sample was on the bottom, if I move this one up, if I just click apply and close, if I open that back up, it's not going to save. You actually have to apply the order. This is just a temporary thing so that you don't accidentally like move stuff around or put things where you don't want them. So it's not automatically written to your file. But once we click that apply order, it's going to save that to our file, and you can see that that's now no longer at the bottom. So I'll just move that one back down. Like I said, everything's saved in our JSON file as well. So we can change things around in here if you wanted to as well. Like this was the volume sample, so we call this, hey, this is volume sample. Click save, and then I open that up, and you see that the name has changed there as well. I'm gonna go ahead and just put that back. And we're all good. So we can export these out as well. So if I click this open snippets exporter, we have all of our little snippets saved out here. So I can, let's say, export these channel, float vector, integer, all those things. And click those, click export selected, and then we can add these to, let's say, channel arms. It's going to write those to disk. And then if we want to append those to our file, we can, let's go to this snippets.json. We'll set that as our file so that we don't have anything in our file. So in our snippets, we don't have anything in there. So if I click this open snippets combiner, we can select the directory, and any files that we have in there, it's going to pull those up, and we can append stuff from whatever. So if I wanted to add all of those channel params, we can just check that append check snips, and then it's going to add those in there. If I go ahead and check that again, it's going to skip those because they have the same name, so it's not going to overwrite anything if you don't want it to. You'll have to delete them out and add them back in that way. But that is how that works. Let's go ahead. Let's just switch back over to that. And then we can come in here and let's add in one of these other ones. Let's do this random rotation. Add a min and a max rotation for us. Now we've got some random rotation on our pig heads here. And let's say we've got multiple things wired up in here, right? And we're done with this. We could click this convert to wrangle, and it's going to go ahead and just convert that to a regular attribute wrangle. That way that the file is not dependent upon the HDA itself. So you can transfer those files to other people without having that dependency. So it's kind of nice. The only little caveat there, if you see this, we still have this max scale parameter. If we change or convert that to a regular wrangle, it's not going to keep those. You'll have to remake those yourself, but it's not a super big deal, in my opinion. Take just a second to do that. But yeah, that's kind of this tool that I've been working on. You can download it. The link is in the description, as long as everything saved properly. Hopefully it is. But it's up on Gumroad if you wanna grab it. I think that this works a little bit better. If not, whatever, you don't have to download it. It's up to you. But I think this works a little bit better than just having like a button on your UI somewhere, or having a Python panel that you have to deal with. I think those are just kind of annoying to deal with because they're not there. You have to like search for them, or have to have them replace your um, like your parameter pane here in order to use them, which I don't really like. So I'm going to use this. So if you see me using this, this is what this is. You'll see me kind of probably using this going forward in future videos. But we can go ahead and look at a project now. I'm going to look at the doll's eyes project that I did a while ago, but I haven't shown it on YouTube. So let me find it real quick. If you don't know what this plant is, it's super weird, but it's also really, really cool. So this is the final render here. Let me just turn off our grid. If there's any questions, by the way, about the snippet manager, feel free to ask and I will answer them. But yeah, this is the little doll size plant. You can search for an image of it on Google, and this is basically what it looks like. But this is the file. Let's go over, I guess, kind of how I made it. So it's really not super complex here. Start with our line. Is Houdini 22 out soon? I hope so. Thought it was on the 16th. I don't know that it'll be on the 16th. I don't know when it'll come out, to be honest with you. I'm hoping it comes out soon. I'm hoping it's at least out before next Wednesday, because if it's out before next Wednesday, I will be taking a look at it on stream. What's up, Anton? So yeah, I start with this line. I've just got 100 points here. And then I just made a little curve view attribute with a bend, a channel ramp. You know what? I should add that as a snippet now that I think about it. But I use this as our bend parameter. So we've got our bend, and then that's based off of our curve view. And I am using that for the scale by attribute. So we've got our little curve there, and I just sweep that. Nothing too complex here. Add some caps to it, so we have our ends capped. I kind of hide those in the end because the doll's eye plant just works a little weird. Doesn't really have them on the end. The little growths, I don't know what to call them. The little growth things, they're not even like fruit. They're like flowers, I guess. I'm sure Houdini 22 will come out 22 day of the month. I'm hoping it'll be this month. So we talked a lot about the release last year in the stream I did with the keynote presentation. Last year was about a month after the keynote presentation that the Houdini 21 was released. So I would anticipate that this would be hopefully the same. At least that's my hope. So we should be seeing it pretty much any time now, because it was towards the end of the month that we got the keynote presentation this year in June. The power of a line with points. Yep. Endless possibilities. Then I added some normals to this. Just I don't even know. I think I just added them because I'm going to use them in this attribute wrangle. It's been a minute since I did this project. I did take this and I peeked it out just a little bit so that I could kind of blend the stuff together in the end. But I took this shape, piped it into an attribute wrangle with density based off of our curve view attribute, which still exists on those points. So if I visualize that, right, still based off of that. So I take that, I apply this density attribute. So I've kind of remapped it so that we have a lot more at the end, not so much down at the start where it would be at the bottom. And then we're just scattering based off of that density. You don't want to go too dense with this because the doll's eyes plant doesn't have a ton of little growths off of them. I don't know what the leaves. I guess they're leaves. And then this is like mostly procedural, I guess, but I've just got rid of a couple of points here that were overlapping. So right here, got rid of just a couple that ruined the look here. So without this, these down here, they're just kind of too close to each other for the camera angle that I did. So to create the grows, took another line here. Simple line, bent it. I don't think I did anything special. This, yeah, just capture length with it set to the same as the length. Yeah, the length. So just make sure that that's set up. Should be all good. And then I sweep it with this kind of weird ramp applied to it because the growths are they're kind of weird the way that they work. The doll's eyes plant. Let me just pull up an actual picture of it. Hold on, give me a second here. Open PureRef real quick. Grab a couple images. They're weird little things. This one's got a bunch of them. All right, so this is what they look like. This is like the actual plant. These are real images. They're just kind of weird. I don't know. But yeah, so they've got these like weird little growths at the bottom of them. They just kind of like jut out. They're a little bit fatter at the bottom, and they kind of just like stick. I don't know. They almost look like parasites. It's weird. Sweep is faster than polywire. Yeah, polywire is good for certain things though. But yeah, so I took those and I scaled down the end so that they didn't have any chance of the little, what are they called? I don't know. Whatever these things are, the little flowering parts, so that those didn't stick out. They kind of look like butts. It's weird. They've got like a butt crack. Anyways, I grouped the endpoints so that I could use that for the copy to points for all of those little flowering parts, and added a normal to that point as well. Or no, I just added normals to all of them. Yeah, so then that gives us this once we copy to points, and then I blasted away everything but the endpoints, that little endpoint, so that we could copy onto the end of those. And then just creating an orient attribute so that we can orient these. So just set an up direction. This is basically what I showed with the snippet manager. This is like added in there. It's one of the things I added in there because I always forget how to do this, and I have to go back and figure it out again. This Q multiply is lifesaver. But so we take an up attribute, and then we're making a transform or orient out of that. I guess, will this show us? I don't think we're going to be able to look at this very nicely. So this is what we kind of get with that, with the up attributes set based off of the normals. And then we come in here and they all change around. This gives us a nice little random rotation. So I can show with and without this. So these were my little modeled shapes. So it doesn't add a whole lot. You can see like this one changes a lot, right? So just adding some random rotation around that axis. Stigma scar. I don't know what you mean. So if we look at this, start with the sphere. Did a poly extrude. This was to create the little like butt crack shape. So sphere, and then we extrude inward. Yep, inward on the distance there. I just manually selected some of those points. And then smoothed it out. Did some stub divisions. And added a little bit of noise to it. Been using the scatter and align. You know, I always forget about that. Scatter and align is super useful. That probably would have worked in this case. But what are you going to do? So yeah, just added some little noise to that and then grouped it for later for shading. And then for the iris, I took a sphere, scaled it kind of weird, and then sculpted a little bit to get that kind of indent there. Subdivided it, transformed it, added it to a group of its own, again for shading, and then kind of placed it where I wanted it, and then just scaled it down and put it where I needed. So that gives us all of these little eyeball looking like shapes. Really nothing too complex here. And then all added together. Actually, I skipped this part. So once we have these, to get these transitions to be a little bit nicer, because these aren't very nice seams, VDB from polygons, nice little VDB smooth, and then convert VDB. And now they've kind of got them grown in there, kind of similar to the way some of these kind of look. So they're not just like harsh edges. Yeah, coffee bean shape. That's, I was trying to think of, I wanted to say like an almond, but I don't think almonds are shaped like that. But that's the shape that came to mind. Yeah, so you can play around with this, play around with the seeds of the scatter and get different things. You can increase the total count and stuff, but I stuck with this. You'll have to, it's not super procedural, right? Because we have some things we're doing manually, but if you up this count too much, you have to really start to play around with the blast and deleting things that don't look too good because they're too close together. Welcome, Marion. Hopefully I don't pronounce that wrong. But yeah, that is the ultimate shape there. And then everything's grouped here. So with these eyeballs and the iris, I don't know. They're not really the irises and the eyeballs, but that's what made sense in my brain. So that's what I named them. So we use those in shading here. So the materials aren't anything too crazy either. So the stem, just took the position. We can even load up CPU. Get rid of that grid. So I took a position with a unified noise and piped that in into a ramp for the color here. Actually worked really, really well. Because they're kind of like got these gradients, not here, but I was going for more like this look. So we got this like gradient, but I wanted them to be a little bit more ripe, I guess. I don't know. The red I feel like is the ripeness versus that green. So yeah, just some frequency there. You can play around with that. Just shows those colors. And then this was the specular roughness, right? Basically the same thing, just with some different values in there. Let's wire that into color and you can see kind of what I did. So that kind of breaks up things just a little bit, gives kind of a nice specular highlights there. Kind of breaks it up just a little bit. Usually if things aren't looking like super realistic, it's probably because of the roughness. So play around with those. And then I did the same thing with just some bump here. Just you can see just a little bit of this little bump adding in there, because I kind of noticed that on some of them that they had this little height variations to them. So stuck with that. And then for the eyeballs, it's basically all the same shader. Control Alt S for a cleaner look. I don't know what that does. I don't know if I'm being pranked right now. I don't know what that does. Control Alt S, what does that do? Pronounced well enough. Oh yeah, Germany. Well, I'm glad you popped in for a minute. It's gonna be a short stream anyways. We're just kind of taking a look at this, and then the Vex snippet tool. No real plans to do anything. Control Alt S. Oh, for this? Oh, yeah. Okay, I knew that existed. I just didn't know what the hotkey was for it. Minimize this to UI. Gotcha. Yeah. This, I guess I can. There we go. We don't need that. So yeah, this is for the eyeball. I basically did the same thing for all of these. I just kind of stuck this like unified noise with position in there. So just added this kind of off-whitish color, almost a red. It's like a little bit. I did play around with some like subsurface and stuff initially, but I didn't really like it the way it turned out. I just whatever. And then this is just fed into that specular roughness again. Same thing with the noise. See what that looks like. Just adds a little bit of variation in there. Gives it a nice little set of highlights. And this one was a little bit more rough as well, I think. But yeah. Iris was basically the same thing again. Just abusing that unified noise with the position. Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I try to play around with the subsurface on some things. Just sometimes it gives a little bit of a nicer look with like the roughness and stuff, but it didn't work in this. Yeah, so this is really hard to see unless you zoom way in. But there's a little bit of displacement going on with these little irises, just with this unified noise. So very, very small amount. I can crank that up. So almost like a little raisiny type look. And that's just to kind of break up those shapes to make them a little bit different as well. And then I'm assigning those just based off of those groups that I set to. Material linker, I love this thing. This thing's fantastic. Being able to set everything in here. I prefer it night and day over just using like this assign to geometry or using the assign material. Definitely think that this is a much cleaner interface for that. So I think I just used a regular dome light with just like a foresty background. This was off of like Polyhaven. And then I don't think I did anything special. Yeah, I didn't do any sort of AOVs or anything. And then our CopNet, I did grab an image off of Pexels, I believe, to use as the background. I think that adds a lot to it, actually. Set that back to raw. Because this, obviously, for the background, even though it's blurred out pretty heavily here, we've got some actual like plants and stuff here. So I think that adds quite a bit instead of just like trying to make your own. So like you can kind of see the leaves there. I think that adds a lot to the quality there. So I took the image. This was our original background image, transformed it just to get it to kind of align where I wanted. Hold on. Sorry, I did not place the last text into context. Black or circular dot, which is actually a remnant stigma scar from a flower resembling an eyeball. Gotcha. That's what I thought that maybe you were talking about, but I wasn't sure. What do they look like when they're flowering? I figured that was like the flowering part of it, I guess. I don't know. But then I just took this, added a bright node to it, just made it quite a bit brighter because it was pretty dark coming in. It's probably in the wrong color space, to be honest. Probably didn't mess with that, but it didn't matter because it's in the background. Blurred it out, and then this was our raw render. So this was it rendered with aces here. And then we've got a transform to move it into place. Just moving it over just a little bit. And then a little bit of color correction. It's kind of hard to see. You can see it just getting a little bit more saturated there. I'm just bumping up that saturation a very, very tiny bit. RGB to RGBA to RGB to get that alpha out of there. Applying a gamma, adding just a little bit of brightness to it, and then blending that back over. Cops is actually in a pretty good state, I'd say, for some basic compositing. So without these, was our raw render, and with them, we get that nice little bump in saturation there. Just makes it fit a little bit better into the background. Then obviously things are tiling a little bit here, which is fine, so just crop it down. And then last thing you got to make sure of is your OCIO transformed, because if you don't do this, it will not export with your OCIO. So make sure you have this set up. And then in here with your viewport color correction toolbar, got to make sure you check that on so that you can have your color correction in your CopNet. So this is just kind of working space, and then got to make that bake it in. So yeah, that was really kind of the gist of this project. I'll throw this one up on Patreon probably as well, but I just wanted to show it. I'm anticipating Houdini 22 coming out within the next week or so. So if it doesn't come out next week, I'm gonna have to scramble. I don't have anything planned for next week. Basically, I'm finishing up the series on unconventional animation this week, I think, as long as I can get the last video recorded. Oh, actually, you know what? I could show that too. I've got a little bonus animation that I was thinking about including in there, but I don't know that I'm going to. Let me pull that up. I can pull that project up. We can look through that. But yeah, the unconventional animation series using a bunch of cops tricks to do different things. Pretty fun stuff. But I'm planning on finishing that up this week so that I can focus on 22 when it comes out. What's up, Fractaler? Yeah, run it through Vellum. I thought about doing something like that, but I haven't messed with Vellum all that much, and I didn't want to get into. I haven't been doing basically anything other than working on um, that Wrangle HDA, just because I don't want to get into the middle of something before 22 comes out, because I know that I'm just gonna forget about everything. I gotta find this project. Where did I save this? I don't think I saved it under this same folder. What did I even call it? Sorry, I'm trying to find the other animation that I did. I really don't remember. Man, I am drawing a blank. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of my face. Oh, I love that. All right. There we go. Seen your render engine comparison video. Man, that's been a minute. I want to ask your opinion, Karma. How do you find it speed-wise in production work? So I would say that Redshift is still quite a bit faster than Karma, but Karma is totally like usable at this point in time. I think it's totally worth exploring if you haven't messed with it. There's still some things that I mean, the benefit of using Redshift is you don't have to learn all of the stuff about USD, right? USD is kind of a complex subject in itself, but honestly, Redshift works great in Solaris too. So if you're not using it in Solaris, I would definitely recommend to use it in Solaris. There's a lot of great things to come with Solaris, in my opinion. Takes a little bit to learn, but you know, I think you work a lot fast. You can work a lot faster in Solaris, especially if you're working on a bunch of different shots. But Karma is great. I mean, I use it for all of my rendering now. I don't use Redshift at all. I dropped my Redshift subscription a couple years ago. I don't think there's really a need for it in my work. Even yeah, speed's not necessarily the same, but you know, you're most of the time you're rendering like overnight or something, right? Anyways, in your IPR, it's really, you know, the difference between working in Redshift versus Karma for your IPR is not that big of a deal, in my opinion. H22 is hopefully coming out soon. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm hoping within the next week. Do I know how to save Vex code in Attribute Wrangle drop-down menu? I know how to save node presets. Hold on. I'm not sure. I know what you mean. Oh, in this, okay, I get what you're saying. In this thingy. No, I honestly I don't. They're probably hmm, I don't know. It's a good question. Figured it'd be in that somewhere. Um, yeah, no idea. That's kind of the whole point of like the snippet manager that I made, is so that I don't have to mess with any of that. Just makes it super quick and easy. Do I have any info on the 22 Cops 3D hand paint tools? Could it offer viable paint options or more like mass? No, I think it's going to be very similar to um like Substance Painter. I think it'll be totally viable. I don't think that we will be able to, well, just have to use it for mass or anything like that. You're gonna be able to use it for mass, I can guarantee you that. But it'll be like, from what they showed in the video, it looks like it's basically, yeah, you've got layers and everything. Like it's, you can get different brushes. Like it is probably going to be pretty dang close to like something like Substance Painter. Like I think it's gonna work very, very well. But I don't know, who knows? We'll see. This was one of the other animations that I did. I should have named this differently. Let's call this comp. So this was, oh, this is not playing back like it's supposed to. There we go. I don't know what was going on there. So is the little animation. This is playing back really, really poorly. I created a couple of different ones here. But this is all based off of the same stuff, same concepts from the um, unconventional animation series. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. If I will add an extra like section, or if what I'm gonna do. I'll probably just add it as part of like the downloads. But anyways, created a grid and then extracted the centroids to create our little objects here. So these are object smarts just loading in our points. You liked the render. Well, I'm glad you liked the render. Did something in mind that you had in mind called bulbous. I'm not sure what bulbous is. I mean, I know the word bulbous. So yeah, I took the grid here, then this is driving our animation. Oh boy. It's been a minute since I did this one too. So I am offsetting the points so they move kind of through. This is what creates the movement of from the animation controller from cops. Oh, you just had something similar in mind. I was actually, someone made something similar on Instagram. I think I thought I tagged them on there. Maybe I didn't. But yeah, that kind of got the inspiration for that. I thought it would fit well with this unconventional animation, driving everything through these cop nets. So Anyways, yeah, I just took the points and then we're just transforming them into a different space. So, on the X or on the Y axis here instead of on the X Z plane. So I'm just offsetting them. Let's go back to the start here. Offsetting them. Based off of the amount of rows and the amount here. Just kind of keeping them in slightly different spots so they get slightly different values when they run through the CopNet. And then we're just using our frame with a speed multiplier to control their speed. This is, what's all driving. Her position is what's all driving their like the volume sample here in a moment. So just set our Z position to 0. We're setting our Y position here and our X position. So this is just offsetting. So we take the number of points and then we're just offsetting them just a little bit so that they are not all on top of each other. If I comment this out and just set those to 0, you can see what that does. So it just creates basically a line of them with this code right here. So taking our PT num, fitting that between 0 and then the number of points, and then 0.99 to negative 0.99 so that they don't, anything on the edges will be interpolated. So I just try to avoid that. And we get this. Vex is super, super useful. If you missed the start of the video or the stream, the tool I was working on was this attribute wrangle Vex snippet thing. So I've got some different snippets here. Just works directly on the wrangle. If that's something that interests you, you can save them out and everything. So yeah, so I set a random color on the points. And then I'm doing a volume sample. This is working as the displacement. And we're reading in the animation controller here. I should have coded those, color coded those, but I did not. And then I'm just displacing based off of that displacement amount, which is all coming from this animation controller in here, which I don't remember at all what I did. I guess I took a sphere here, scattered it around. So with this, you can go above values of 1, too. So these are all raw values, right? That's the way that COPS works. So you can extrude kind of past things, past like just the 0 to 1 range, which is pretty nice. Blurring that. Oh yeah, so this was just a little trick to get the edges so that we kind of, at the edges, we go back to 0. So if you have things set up certain ways so that they're not tiling, like I don't think this tiled. I think that was part of the problem. Oh, maybe it did. I don't know. If you don't have things tiling, you can do some trick like this. My mouse is not wanting to work properly. Where you take a shape here that's kind of blurred around the edges, and you can kind of fade that out towards the edges so that you get sort of like this tiling going on. So I just fetched these. I did 3 different setups for this. So I took this and then fractal noise. I just clamped those so we get not 0 because I don't want to multiply by 0. And then this gives us some variation here. I guess I didn't use that at all. Oh, the border I had set the clip. I don't know. And then took a fractal noise, and then we're multiplying this to get some of these kind of like, I think what I was trying to do with this was get some pockets of like spheres that would kind of pop up all together. Um, it kind of worked, kind of didn't work. And then I just did this a couple of different times. So these are all basically the same thing with just some different settings set. So these are actually all like referenced copies. And then blended to get some different things. So these are the different outputs for the different outer, middle, and inner sections of our pieces. So at the end here, what did I do? I broke something. I don't even think I touched anything. Oh, that was what was wrong. I should output that, but whatever. Yeah, so the different volumes, I'm outputting 3 volumes here. So we have our outer, middle, and our inner sections. So the outer is going to be this outer piece, the inner, and that's why they're all like the intersection has the highest values in here, the brightest values. If I look at this one, right, these are way above 1, right? Because I'm displacing them so much. I want them displaced a lot more because they're the inner values, right? So I want them to kind of pop out. And again, that's all driven through, the movement of these points across this plane, and then we're sampling in those values. So we get this displacement value that just kind of walks through our texture. Yeah, same source, just different levels. It's basically the same thing, just with some different brightness applied. And then we're just displacing these. These are really hard to see without anything. So we get these, and these are just a simple tube here with a poly extrude. I have poly bevel applied, and then just transform them to the size that I wanted. But yeah, I was trying to get these like little pockets of like circles that would pop up. I've also got this like wave that's kind of moving across it. I don't even remember. I think some of these, my mouse is just not cooperating today. I think I animated some of these, or I had played around with it at one point. I don't know if I ended up sticking with it or not. I guess I didn't animate any of these. I had played around with it for sure. I guess I just ended up sticking with just the movement of these. So yeah, these are the same thing. So like these are all referenced copies, right? All of this stuff is just a reference copy, except for the colors, which I changed up a little bit. But the code that's running it, this is the only one that's not. We're running over a different volume here. So we're running over that second volume, which was the intersection, and then this last one, we're running over that the fully intersection there, the middle section for this second one, and then that intersection for this one. Do you composite, or have you composited in the past? I mean, everybody that does 3D stuff does some compositing, right? So yes, in some ways. I started out my initial journey of anything on computer doing, um, well, I started doing stuff in Blender, but I've moved to video editing for a long time. I spent a lot of time in After Effects over the years. Using a lot of the Wrangle out, how do you feel about AI models to H integrations? Prompt effects will be quite common. I don't use it a lot. There is a tool called Vexpert. which is trained. Oh, I'm not going to drop that down because it's going to convert my file. Um, but there's a tool that um, it's called Vexpert. That it allows you to prompt directly into the Vex box and do some AI stuff with that. Um, can it be useful? I think that everything I don't think is inherently bad. I think that there is some good things to AI. I think that there's some bad things to AI. But the way that you use it is very important with how it affects you as a a user, right? If you're just using it to like, hey, can you make this for me? It's not going to be beneficial for you and it's going to hurt you in the long run. If you're using it to say like, hey, can you make this for me? But then you go further and you say, okay, I don't understand this part. Let me figure out how this works. Maybe you don't know where to start with something and that can help you with that. But if you go back and try to learn what it's doing and why it's doing the things that it's doing, it's no different than following a tutorial, in my opinion. You shouldn't just follow tutorials. You should go through and try and learn what they're doing and why they're doing it. And then you'll actually, learn something from it and be able to actually like take something away from it instead of just blindly following something or blindly prompting and just having it spit something out, right? No, we do not know when H22 is releasing. Hopefully within the next week. That is my hope. Um, if it releases before the 22nd or on the 22nd, I will definitely be streaming some stuff with 22. Very much looking forward to it. For the top geo or the inner geo, took a sphere, just kind of clipped it, moved it to where I wanted with this tube, and then fused it on and put it in the place that I wanted with the size. But yeah, so you can see that these are very much extruded quite a bit more than what the other ones are. So they're popping up. They're being displaced quite a bit. Quite a bit. And then these middle ones are more so than the outer kind of shells. And you get that kind of like walking, that like wave type motion just naturally from the way that I've got this set up with not that, with this, right? Since they're moving across just kind of somewhat all at the same speed, you could randomize this even if you wanted to. You could do a multiplication here and add some randomness to their speed. I didn't do that, but you could do that and it would create some interesting looks too. But that's why that kind of wave is happening, that wave of movement that we see. Just kind of moving across there, like these kind of like diagonalish lines. But it creates some interesting looks. And, we can play around with all of this. It's always procedural. So if I wanted to, you just pen that. I could come in here and let's say play around with this fractal noise. Oh yeah, this one was animated. So I could offset this and we get a different look. It's somewhat hard to tell just in this situation, but it's pretty cool, I think, to be able to work in this kind of visual way because you kind of get to see what you can kind of see what your values are. But like with the bouncing ball animation I did for the unconventional animation series, you get a very nice like view of what it's gonna look like with it directly in cops, which is kind of cool to see like how the values look, um, in a visual way. I did this here, and then I also did a second one. I think this was my initial test where I had this kind of like wave moving across those, which I didn't like some of it, just kind of happens very quickly in some spots. So that's why I kind of went further. But you see kind of the same idea. And that's what this is, this other section. I think this was, I don't know what that was actually. I think this was the animated light filter library actually. Yeah, I use this on both of those. Let this cook. There we go. But it's basically the same thing. I mean, you can see the same sort of a setup there. But this is how procedural it is. I literally just created this, a copy of this SOP create, and then like this was my initial one, and then I just bumped over to this one, and then just changed a couple of settings, right? And we've got a completely different animation. Like this is the exact same setup here. Like all this Vex is the exact same. And you know, this looks to be like it's quite a bit, right? It's very confusing. Someone commented on the last video that there was a lot of Vex with the second to last part. And so I just commented back. It's like it looks like it's a lot, but it's very simple, you know, what's going on here. We just got a couple of things. And then in that one it was even worse. It's more of just like it was a few lines just copied a bunch of times here, but there's really not a whole lot going on here. We've just got a simple float amount that we're setting, and then an offset that we're creating, and then we're just writing into the positions, right? There's not a whole lot that's actually going on here. This is very easy to work up to. And like with this, I don't start out by just typing out like adding in the offset and like the amounts and everything. I start off with just the X position, and then we're moving the X position, and then I start to add these things in just kind of gradually, right? So it looks a lot like it's kind of a lot, but when you actually start to like build these things out, like I wouldn't start out by typing this whole thing out. I just start out one line at a time, and then kind of build upon it there. And that's why I think people get confused with Vex, or like intimidated by it, because it does kind of look like a lot. I mean, this isn't a whole lot of Vex going on in this particular example, but it's kind of confusing because this is kind of a bigger statement, right? But at the same time, I didn't start with this. But yeah, it's the exact same thing, and like most of Vex too, if you're new to Vex, is this like it's one statement or one statement here, right? There's not a whole lot that you're going to be doing that's going to require a bunch of Vex in there. But then we take this. This is like the same thing. So I started out with this ramp, and then I just multiplied this. Again, I didn't start with this either. I just started with a ramp, and then I built upon this kind of later. You block in your initial motions, and then you kind of build upon the complexity, you know, as you go. But I just take this ramp. These are values above 1, and then we're just multiplying those. And then I'm just adding a little distortion to it. And I think this one, yep, this one's animated with this 3D noise. Yeah, layer cake. It's exactly. It's like baking a cake. You don't bake a cake by, you know, putting everything together all at once. Too bad setups like this not playing back in real time. I mean, this is playing back in real time. The thing that it's not playing back in real time is because there's just the geometry here. And I could honestly probably make it play back faster if I do that. Yeah. See, like we can get some like real time playback with this. Obviously, this is a little bit messed up now because, um, well, did I set our? I did do that. I actually should have. I was thinking that that was going to mess with my renders, but this is playing back in basically real time here, right? With that pack-in instance on. And there's quite a bit of geometry here in the end. Like we've got, oh, we're on pack-in instance now. So let me uncheck that. So we've got, 300,000 points on each one of these, probably more on this last one. Yeah, 300,000, 300,000, and then 500,000. So like, it's quite a bit of stuff to be doing that with, and you're like everything's different as well too, right? So it's looking up multiple values. Oops. Yeah, but it plays back pretty quick. And you should be used to probably doing some in play, play blasting, right? Anyways, we can hop back into here, and again, I was just fetching that. We did basically the same things here, just a fractal noise, clamping those values so that we're not multiplying by 0, because that would prevent any upward movement. I didn't want that. And then this one is an animated noise as well. You don't want to go too fast with these things because it is compounding, right? We've got this fractal noise that's being creating movement, but we also have our points that are stepping across this. They're moving across this and they're sampling values as they go. So the faster that you have the points moving, or the faster that you have this moving, the more it's going to kind of multiply itself on top of each other. 21 cops runs on GPO should not be slowing it. Yeah, but there's a lot of geo in there too. Yeah, so I took this and then I did a dilation on it and then just added that in there. And these are all the same as well. Again, these are just changed values for our fractal noise. So just changing like element size and stuff. And then these are driving the outer, middle, and inner portions of our geometry. So pretty cool stuff. Like, it's really easy to, change up your animation. Like I can go in here, just make a copy of this real quick. And then actually, let me do it with the other one. Let's do this one. And we could be able to come in and pack and instance these as well, get faster playback. But I can come in here and like I could completely start over if I wanted to. Like these are just animating in themselves. So let's just delete all this out. All right, so now we just have these little balls that are moving around. We can add in a fractal noise. We can add this. Let's add that as the foreground. The key with these is you don't want stuff that's going to be super like rough. You really want it to be not super rough. And we could even do something weird. I don't know. Maybe not with those. Or we could distort it. We can even distort it. We can get totally different animations by doing this. And then let's set this to be UV. And we can offset this totally. don't know. Let's see what this gives us. Sure. Right. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. Let's just look at that portion, right? Yeah, you get just totally different looks. And we're getting a lot of the movement for free. So if we just like bypass this, right, we get kind of the same sort of thing, because we're stepping through, right? We've got all of these things that are moving through. And let me even come in here. Oh, we were looking at the wrong thing anyways. Let me come in here. I don't really like that. Sorry, my neighbor just started mowing if you're hearing a bunch of lawnmower sounds. You can even play around with the shapes of these if you wanted to. Let me up that back up a little bit. Maybe like that. Right, now we've got something that's completely different. Maybe that was too small. Maybe like that. And let's actually add this back in as well. Or even instead of an add, we could do this like multiply and get some weirdness. Yeah, it's just totally different. And this is I don't know. You could do all sorts of really cool stuff with this. Smoother because you have to consider how the points are affected per frame. Yeah, those smaller pockets. You could even like, I don't have an example of it, and I don't know that I would have time to build it. But you could take points and take them through the flow solver and move them, and have them like, you wouldn't even have to have a like an animated texture. You could just use the flow solver to drive your like a vector points or something and get some movement that way. The possibilities are endless. It's really cool the different things that you can do with this. We can even, I don't know, let's look at maybe changing up the way that this is. So I can mess with that too, right? I said the rows were 400. Let's do, right, what did I then set the 400. Yeah, it's really cool stuff that you can do with it. I definitely recommend playing around. I don't want to like, I want to randomize this too much. Let's do. Trying to think here. Frac. We could do if 01 rand pt num, and then let's do like, I don't know, 0.01 to 0.4 maybe. I don't know. What is this going to do? Yeah, that's more like what I was kind of like thinking about. And then let's randomize the speed too. Because why not? Times fit01 at random at pt num. And then let's do 0.001. Oh, wait, hold on. We're multiplying it, aren't we? So let's go 1 to 1.4. Sure. And I broke it. Okay, that turned into a super long. I should have done that differently. 4 and 112. I wish this would tell you where your cursor's at. Speed. Hold on. Oh, that's gonna break it, aren't it? Because I've got. Oh no, frack. I don't know. I don't have an IDE set up, so me. Here, hold on. Let me do this. Yeah, they need to work on some of this. All right, hold on. Let me let me do this differently. All right, times fit01 rand at pt num 1 to 1.4. There. There we go. So now they're moving at different rates too. Right. And so this is kind of what I've talked about as far as like you start off with something small and then you end up with something big. And I should do this differently, more cleanly, but we're just mucking about right now. So what does this give us? Right? Something completely different. You kind of lose those pockets. And we could even, if we wanted to get rid of this kind of movement altogether, let's see what just this does. So now you get kind of more random movement. But like you see how quick it is to change stuff, right? You get a completely different animation. That's why I like this. It's very like procedural way to work. And I can come back in here. Let's up that even. What is it? Gives us quite a bit, quicker movement. Very cool stuff. Very procedural, very fun way of working, in my opinion. I don't know. I like it quite a bit. If you guys haven't seen the unconventional animation, what did I do with that? Just pull it up. Where is it? Yeah, there you go. Right. This is all done through these same sort of techniques. That's really cool. This this little shockwave is a pretty cool like technique. This makes it super smooth. So like normally if you're trying to do this type of like an effect, you get a lot of jitteriness that goes on with displacing things with like a poly extrude for like a growth thing. But this works so well and it's so smooth. The movement is I'll show it. Let me just here. I'm gonna go over it in the video to later this week. But I'll show the shockwave thing because it's a really interesting thing. And I've even got an example, right? So this is like how you would kind of normally do it. Uh-oh. Well, maybe not. Oh, I need to wire this in somewhere, I think. Sorry, I haven't opened this project file in a minute. There, that's where I was looking for, I think. Poly extrude. There we go. It'll come out later this week. I still got to record it. It'll probably be on Thursday. I haven't gone through and actually rebuilt this setup. I made this whole like unconventional animation, the alternative animation techniques, whatever you want to call it. I made that back in February when I first did it. So trying to go back through. Anyways, this works, right? You get some, once you start trying to slow things down, you get this like really jittery movement. If you're trying to do like an attribute transfer, because I've got this circle that expands out, right? You get some really, really jittery movement that comes with it. So if you go about it with a CopNet, which we're reading in the CopNet right here, this is just a preview of it, right? Everything's done through this CopNet. So we're importing this object, putting it in the right space, and we get that nice circle kind of slow down, right? So this isn't jittery at all. It's the attribute transfer that gets jittery. So we get this, and then it shoots out and then slows down. And then I could just blur this out a little bit, and we get a very nice shockwave out of this. Let me just play blast this. Flipbug, sure. That way we can just kind of view it in real time. Give it a moment here. I don't know. I should have set the frame ranges probably, I guess. But it's so smooth with the movement here using this method versus that the attribute transfer or something like that. And again, it's all super customizable too. So you can go in since everything's kind of running through cops, you can just affect things in such nice ways through that. Right? So here we get this. And there's no jitter that goes on there. No jitter whatsoever. Like you just get this smooth movement versus these jitters that happen. You get things kind of bouncing up and down. I don't know. And then, yeah, like I said, you can, because of this, you can come in here being in cops. If we want to do like a distort by slope and totally change the shape, let's wire it in here, I guess. Let's do a fractal noise. I'm gonna up that kernel size as well as our displacement amount. And then we can play around with this. Right? Totally different. Now I've got a totally different shape to our shockwave. And we can get really crazy with it. Let's go. Okay, that's maybe too much. But yeah, I don't know. It's super cool the way that it all works. With it being in cops, you can totally just transform the look of things. Right? Like obviously, probably not something that you would do to this extent, but like you can see the idea behind it is how much you can totally change the animation. Do I have any experiments as several plane cam projections by using cops to a non-plane organic model? I don't. There's a really cool thing that Magnus, what's his name? I want to say Magnus Carlsen, but uh, that's the chess player. Hold on, let me find his name. It's Magnus something. I got him saved somewhere. Constantine Magnus. Constantine Magnus has a really cool video on like being able to take shapes from cops and turn them into 3D models. Yeah, here. This create 3D shapes from Copernicus SDFs. This is super, super cool. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend you go and watch this video. Here, I'll post it. It's not exactly what you're saying, but it is super cool. Like he's just projecting, 3D shapes into the viewport and creating a 3D shape out of it. This is super awesome. I mean, I haven't played around with this at all, but super cool video from Constantine. Just super smart guy. Highly recommend that you go and watch that video. Great video. It's not necessarily what you're saying, but it's pretty cool for modeling. If you guys haven't seen Tiny Bugbot either, oh my god. Hold on, let me pull him up. That's the stuff that he's doing is insane. Tiny Bugbot. Have you guys seen this stuff? Like, this is all cops. This is insane. Like, he's modeling through cops. So good. So intricate. I mean, a lot of it's just geo that's been have stuff like applied to it. This one's pretty cool. But just super cool. This is all cops, or even like one of my favorite ones is, well, they're all so good. This one's really cool though too. This is all cops, yeah. I mean, all of the shapes are coming from cops. I mean, you can see what's kind of happening from this. It's just super high res geo that he's taking and projecting these cops textures onto. I haven't quite figured it out fully yet. What all he's doing, but oh my god, it's so cool. This is incredible. And absolutely incredible. I don't think I've seen this one. Oh yeah, I did. So like there's some stuff that's non Cops. Actually, this one may not even be cops at all. This one is. This one's a lot of cops. Like I I don't even know, man. I wouldn't even know where to start. But it's just so talented. Place-based model of head. Hair manually place cables with other details are from noise cops or scattershot. So crazy. If you guys don't follow Tiny Bug Bot on Instagram, I'll post that real quick. You definitely go follow that guy. Lots of really crazy stuff. This one's another really good one with a lot of cop stuff. So again, just like super high res stuff that's like attribute from map and then extracted, I guess, I think is kind of what's happening. But very talented. Very cool. I mean, I had the thought of doing this for a long time in cops and using it to model. I played around with it with some things, but this is on a whole nother level. This is crazy. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. But yeah, this was the shockwave. My less impressive shockwave. But yeah, this video will be coming out later this week. I gotta get it recorded still, but I'll be releasing that later on. And that I think is gonna wrap up the unconventional animation series. I'll probably throw in that demo, that bonus lesson, like project file. But I don't think I'm gonna record anything for the one that we were just looking at. This one. I don't think I'll record anything for that. It's kind of why I was gonna show it here. Just because with 22 coming out, I just kind of want to wrap things up with that series. So I got a lot of stuff that I'm gonna be wanting to do with 22. It's probably using Material X layers and mix with cams. Yeah, I don't know what it's all going on with that, but I would love to be able to look through one of those project files. That would be so insightful. So insightful. This was the ball. If you haven't seen the ball, bouncing ball. Like, so this is super intuitive to like be able to see this in your file, right? I can jump over to it. Oh, that is not the one. I think it was this one. Yep. So just the bouncing ball. Right. So you just got a simple bouncing ball animation, and like that was all the code for it, right? That's all the code for driving the positions. Not too much in there. And then this drives the animation. So it's literally just a ramp transforms and multiplied by another ramp. And we've got this. And we could change all this. Like if we want this to go further, we could multiply this, right? Multiply. So now it'll go, the ball is gonna bounce, twice as far. It's a little bit of sliding there at the end. And without that, oh wait, is that not actually, it looked like it didn't actually do anything. Let's see. It definitely should have. That is odd. Oh, because well, no. Oh, mask too. Duh, because I put it in a multiply, not a bright. Sorry. There we go. Now it'll go twice as far. Now it's out to Tor 4. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's super cool to play around with this because it's just very, it's kind of pretty visual, and it's so quick to make like large sweeping changes. Like I could change this completely if I wanted to. Um, like that gives us a nice kind of shape to our up and down, but it's very easy to change that, and we could change the height instead. It's so quick to change things versus like keyframes. I hate the keyframe editor in Houdini. It's just such a pain in the butt, in my opinion. I just don't like it whatsoever. So this is much more intuitive, and you can extrapolate this to like we obviously in this series we did a lot of just like changing positions, right? With the ball, with the or well, I guess with the shockwave, we're doing some poly extrusions. With the ball animation, we kind of expand to do some more rotations and stuff too. But you don't have to just stick with like rotations or anything like that, or like the transforms. You can drive any parameter in Houdini through this. And that's really the, I hope people gather from this whole series is that it's not just for like modifying just positions. You can use this to drive literally any parameter in Houdini. Like you can do all sorts of cool stuff with this, and it doesn't have to be, on geometry. You can use it to do kind of whatever. And you don't have to like you don't actually have to animate stuff through um like these wrangles. Yeah, this was the wrangle that someone commented on. You don't have to animate through the wrangle either. You can literally just put a point in the middle and then animate in your copnet, and you can get that animation all through your copnet instead of the wrangle. I just chose to do it in the wrangle. But yeah, this looks a lot more complex than it is, right? This looks like kind of a lot, but it's really just like these three statements are all the same. These three statements are all the same. These two are both the same. So it's like this is 1, 2, and then 3 lines of code basically. They're just copied in different spots. So, and you don't start with all this, you just kind of build up to it. But yeah, hopefully people get that out of the series. That was kind of my goal. And like you could use it to probably do some like character rigging stuff too, I would assume. But I obviously it's kind of less what you would probably use it for. This is probably more stuff for like MoGraphy type effects. So yeah. Anyways, I think that is gonna wrap up our stream for the day. I gotta get going. I gotta go do some stuff. But I wanted to play around with this and show the wrangle, little Vex snippet manager here. All these different stuff, all the different stuff that you can do with it. Like I said, that's up on Gumroad. If you want to grab it, links in the description. You can go get it there. Spend a little bit of time on it, but I'll probably be using this quite a bit going forward and build out my little Vex snippet library. I don't know why I didn't do this before, but whatever. And then I will probably throw up the stuff that we looked at today on Patreon as well. And then this video will be out on the shockwaves, will be out later this week. I'll have some fun with that. But anyways, yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Hopefully next week, like I said, next week, as long as Houdini 22 comes out before then, I will stream on Wednesday. If it comes out before or on Wednesday, I will stream more on Houdini 22. We'll play around with a lot of the new stuff. It'll be pretty fun to play around with. I'm super looking forward to it, especially all the new cop stuff. There was a lot of Apex stuff in there, which I haven't really messed with Apex at all. So I won't probably mess with any of that. but I will definitely be jumping into the cop stuff. Very much so looking forward to the new tools that they've got in there. Um, the paint stuff looks super awesome. That fractal sample node looks sick. There's just a lot. The new solvers, looking forward to it all. The adjacency rasterization, that's going to unlock a lot of different things for working in cops. So I'm very excited. It doesn't work for everything, is my understanding, but there will hopefully be some workarounds and stuff, ways that we can kind of hack it. So you shared a lot. Thanks. Cops is no doubt one of the most interesting parts of Houdini. Definitely, I'm super addicted to the whole cop nets and playing with them. There's so much that you could do with them, and I'm looking forward to seeing them add more and more to it. I think that it's going to turn into one of the most powerful parts of Houdini in general. But you're addicted to the Apex stuff, yeah. I want to play around with Apex. It seems like so much to learn. I'm gonna have to do it. I did see that they dropped a new series on the Houdini channel for Apex, the little crab. I've not looked at that, but I've heard good things about it from the people that have. So definitely would recommend checking that out if you're looking at getting into it. But I will probably check that out at some point as well. But anyways, like I said, thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we will hopefully see everyone next week on Wednesday with Houdini 22. If it doesn't come out, I probably am not going to stream, but it will 100% be streaming if I can. So, or if it's released. So, you guys have a good night, and like I said, if you want to grab that file, HDA, it'll be linked in the description. So have a good night.